Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Quentin Riggins, President Pro Tem of the Auburn Board of Trustees, and it is so good to see you here today. As we recognize such an important chapter in the history of our beloved institution, as we look to the future of all that is to come, it is so fitting that we gather here today at the very location where the late Dr. Harold Franklin literally took his first steps toward integration in Auburn 60 years ago. It was inside the Ralph Brown Drawn Library, right behind me where everything started. And it's quite a surreal moment right now as we in this place. And we stand in the spot and realize all that has taken place after January 4th, 1964. Think about that, all the things that have transpired at our wonderful university since 1964. As I look out today and I see the legacy that was set in place by Dr. Franklin, the very impetus for so many firsts in the successive years at Auburn. And I want to first especially recognize the Franklin family, including his son, Harold Franklin Jr. Will you please stand? I also want to honor those who followed the footsteps of Dr. Franklin and blazed their own path forward at Auburn. So please stand, if you will, as I call your name, and let's try to hold applause to the end. Miss Juanita Britton Tucker and Dr. Heidi Wright, sister and daughter of Dr. Josetta Britton Matthews, the first graduate of Auburn's grad school. Crystal Ash, the niece of Henry Harris, our first Black athlete. We have quite a few of our athletic trailblazers here as well. From football, Henry Ford, Tom Gossam, Johnny Green, Mike McLeod, James McKinney, Mrs. Gloria Owens, the wife of James Owens, and their daughters, Dawana, Kimberly, and Jamila. Charles Prince and Charles Wood. For track, Tony Easley, Donna and Kendall Smith, wife and daughter of Olympian Willie Smith. Joseph Tolles. Basketball, Eric Stringer, Bernard Montgomery. And for band, Ed Smith and Jeffrey Rouser. These individuals are a small but mighty group that represents so many more who helped make Auburn what it is today. If there's anyone else joining us that I may have missed as we're gathered today, would you please rise to, and let's give everybody a big round of applause. In here, this moment means a lot to our esteemed institution and the subsequent success of so many others as a result of Dr. Franklin's efforts in our collective Auburn experience. Today, we seek not to remember the past, but also focus our attention on where we're headed as preeminent land-grant university. With that, I would like to introduce the president of our university, Dr. Christopher Roberts, and Dr. Taffy Benson Clayton. Will y'all come forward, please?
Good afternoon, War Eagle. It's a real pleasure to welcome all of you to campus today. And I'd like to thank the members of our Board of Trustees for being here today as well. I'm so proud to be part of this event. the 60th anniversary of our institution's integration. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a minute to reiterate that Auburn would not be the institution that it is today without Dr. Harold Franklin's remarkable courage to enroll in Auburn's graduate school on January 4th, 1964. In the fall of 2015, Dr. Franklin was honored at a dedication ceremony with a historical marker that was placed in the green space between the library and Mary Martin Hall, commemorating Auburn's desegregation. When Dr. Franklin spoke at that event, he said he wanted young people to have a positive impact in their communities and in the world, emphasizing that taking advantage of the education system was a way to make that happen. Last week, on January 4th, we had a small campus ceremony on the actual anniversary of the exact time, 60 years later, that Dr. Franklin registered for classes at 2:20 p.m. We invited those in attendance to share their thoughts, and I was so honored to share that moment with Harold Franklin's son, Harold Franklin Jr., and his grandson, Deldrick Franklin. That event was emceed by Vice President and Associate Provost, Dr. Taffy Benson Clayton, and I'd like to introduce her to you right now. Dr. Clayton.
Thank you, President Roberts. A year after Dr. Franklin enrolled at Auburn, he transferred to the University of Denver when it became clear that his master's thesis would not be approved. Almost 55 years later, Auburn was able to correct that wrong. Dr. Franklin defended his thesis and received his master's degree in history from Auburn in 2020. He was quoted as saying at that time, "I'm glad I could do something to help other people. And my mom and dad always taught us that when you do something in life, try to do something that will help others as well." Dr. Franklin's integration of Auburn University set in motion change that continues to advance this institution to this very day. Auburn is a better institution because of Dr. Franklin's bravery 60 years ago.
As I mentioned, in 2021, the university commemorated Dr. Franklin's efforts, courageous efforts, with a plaque in our courtyard, which is located adjacent to the Ralph Brown Drawn Library, and I encourage you to stop by there after the ceremony. At the event, when we did that dedication, an Auburn alumnus and my dear friend, Kenneth Kelly, said that Auburn was honoring a proud man who never asked for anything but opportunity, and that Franklin was mature enough to know that his actions were going to benefit others more than it would benefit himself. The legacy of Dr. Franklin and all of Auburn's trailblazers continue to inspire us all as we work hard every day to create an environment on this campus where everyone is welcomed, valued, respected, and engaged. I thank you all for being with us today, and I now welcome our special guest, 1975 graduate Tom Gossam Jr., War Eagle.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you today, and I'd like to thank Dr. Roberts and Dr. Clayton for their words of inspiration and reflection. In the 60 years since Dr. Franklin bravely walked across this campus to this library and registered to be a student at Auburn University, much has changed in many lives, including my own. On January 1st, 1970, 6 years after Dr. Franklin made it possible, I sat down in my room in my parents' home and did what my mom always insisted we do every New Year's. I wrote down my New Year's resolution for that year. My mom insisted that our goals be written down so that we be reminded of them throughout the year. So I went to my room and I wrote down on a piece of paper quote, to attend and play football at Auburn University. That piece of paper set me on a course that has led me here to you today. I would keep that paper in my wallet and refer to it often until March 18th, 1975, the day I graduated. On that day, 2 Black students graduated from Auburn, myself and Dr. John Jernigan, in honor of Dr. Franklin's legacy. Well, why Auburn? I would be the first in my family to go to college. Most of us here in those early days of integration were first. In my case, not just the first in my immediate family, but the first among the offspring of my dad's 11 sisters and brothers and my mom's 5 sisters and brothers. I was the oldest of all the cousins. Whenever I went, wherever I went, or whatever I chose to do regarding higher education, I had to be successful. The elders in my family and my community were counting on me. That was the case for most of us who ventured here in the early days of integration. So what made me think I could accomplish my goals at Auburn? For my parents, picking a college was about education. They didn't care if I ever played a down of football. There were several solid reasons why Auburn was attractive to me. Dr. Franklin, of course, was one of those reasons. He opened the door just 6 months after Governor George Wallace had stood in the door at the University of Alabama to block the first Black students from attending school there. It had been just a little over 5 months since Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. There was turmoil across the country, but no one at Auburn had stood in the doorway of this university to block the way. In 1968 and 1969, Auburn's first Black athletes, Henry Harris and James Owens, outstanding athletes, had chosen to be Auburn and Southeastern Conference athletic pioneers. So with the dawn of integration arriving in the South, I would be one of the fewer than 100 Blacks who entered the university in the first 5 years of integration. My parents, Tom and Catherine, had set out education goals for us. As early as I can remember, my dad understood and preached the power of education. My dad always worked 2 to 3 jobs to make sure that funding would be there when it was time for me and my 2 sisters to go to college. My mom went to business college, and she took me to the Titusville Library in our neighborhood and allowed me to check out the maximum number of books and instilled her love of reading in me. So with all that my parents had invested in us, what institution could they entrust our future to? Would we be welcomed at Auburn? No one from my neighborhood had gone to Auburn. I didn't know anyone who had graduated from Auburn. Auburn existed on another planet. I wanted to play football, but I didn't know any of Auburn's coaches, nor did any of them know me. No one recruited me. I did know the handful of guys on Auburn's team that had gone to my high school, where I had integrated the football team, and I knew of James and Henry. Surprisingly to me, the Auburn coaches welcomed me. Football is a macho thing. When it was time to fight, I fought. When I needed to make friends, I made friends. In 10 months, Auburn awarded me a full athletic scholarship. In the next 3 years, I was a starter on the team. In 1972, James and I, on a beautiful, beautiful Saturday night in Jackson, Mississippi, represented the first time 2 Black athletes would start on Auburn's football team. We grew from just me and James on the team to me, Mitzi, and Cedric my senior year. In 3 years, we finished number 8, number 5, and number 9 in the country. In my senior year, there were 16 black athletes in the athletic dorm, including basketball players and track runners. Because of our experience at Auburn, our families' lives expanded. Our parents got to come to all the home games, and they enjoyed that. Both my younger sisters graduated from Auburn, and one of my nieces. My dad became a hero at work. Daddy worked at a Sipco pipe and foundry in Birmingham. He worked outside in a job that was called a bracer. And they make pipes and they ship those pipes all over the world. And my dad's job, along with some other men, was to tie those pipes down on the railroad cars as they shipped out. Well, one day, Daddy's foreman came to him and told him that the superintendent of the plant wanted to see him. Well, my dad was thinking, what could the superintendent want with me? What have I done? Am I getting ready to be fired? So Daddy followed the foreman up to the superintendent's office. And when he walked in the office, the superintendent was reading the newspaper. And he said, Tom, have you seen this? And my dad didn't know what he was talking about. And so my dad walked over. And in that newspaper, the Birmingham Post-Herald, was an article by Bill Lumpkin. And Bill Lumpkin had written an article about me and Auburn awarding me a scholarship and my being on the team. And the superintendent made sure that that newspaper article was posted all over the plant. And my dad became a hero. And so it all comes down to the core belief in the power of education and what education can do. And Auburn education showed us that we could not only uplift ourselves, change our own circumstances, but also lead the way to a brighter future for generations to come. So how do I sum up my Auburn student experience? There were many victories, both on the field and in the classrooms. There were also traumatic setbacks in our social life and the overall Auburn experience. We lived in two realities. We witnessed and continue to witness the university's acceptance of and ability to deal with evolving and the changing world around us, while it also holds on and retains traditions, values, and customs. But we who were pioneers dreamed of this day. As President Roberts says, Auburn has earned the right to dream the biggest dreams. One of my favorite Native American sayings is, it is wise to learn from the past while keeping an eye peeled on tomorrow. Thank you for allowing me to join you in the honor of participating in this momentous occasion. And War Eagle. This time, it is my distinct honor to call to the podium a great Auburn leader who has served selflessly on the Auburn Board of Trustees, Mrs. Elizabeth Huntley.
Oh, get to my name, right? War Eagle, everybody. Now, is that the War Eagle I'm going to get when we're about to play our home SEC opener tonight? Can I get a better War Eagle? All right, let's do this right now. We are in Auburn. Thank you so much, Tom, for being such an outstanding representative of the Auburn family and for your unyielding devotion to our great university. It's because of leaders like you that so many others are here today, many faces that I see out there. And what an honor it is to witness this recognition and to see, as Tom so eloquently noted, the power of education at work and its resulting impact in lives changed. I know that's true in my own life, as many of you know. I mean, I put it all in a book, so everybody knows my business, right? education became a place of hope and opportunity and for a better life for me, and I know some of you I know out in this audience the same. I'll always appreciate Dr. Franklin's tenacity, perseverance, and his Auburn spirit that was never afraid. His legacy is one firmly rooted in doing the right thing and in turn creating opportunities to others. Today, I'm reminded of how Dr. Franklin fully lived out the ideals of the Auburn Creed, which I know he cherished as a roadmap along his journey. It was 3 years ago that I had the privilege of getting a chance to spend some time with him prior to his passing. He had returned to Auburn in December of 2020 to be honored in the fall commencement for that the wrong against him with not receiving what he was entitled to for his work here at Auburn. And we can own that, right? And so he participated that day in the hooding ceremony for Auburn's first female African-American doctoral graduate in the Department of History, which was a pretty significant moment for him. And being the one who was backstage with him and then on stage with him as we were leading up to that moment, we had a lot of opportunity to share and talk, and I had a gazillion questions, about his experience here, because those of you who know me and my interest here on the Board of Trustees, it's very laser focused in one place, and that's the student experience. Because at the end of the day, that's really what's going to shape how you take Auburn with you, right? You might have a degree in your hand, but did you have a shaping experience like I had the benefit of having with its ups and downs and twists and turns? And so I would think that he would want me to share something that he shared with me, and we tried really hard to meet his request. I kept asking him, I'm like, can we do anything for you? Just tell me, what can we do for you? And he started telling me about how lonely he was at Auburn. He was away from his new son, his wife. He was staying in a dorm completely by himself because nobody wanted to be in the dorm with him. And it was a very, very lonely time. Can you imagine you're on this campus and there's a whole building that's just for you, and you go there every night and you go to class and there's nobody to talk to, and you're just sort of going through the motions. And some folks may say, well, it was an opportunity for an education. Well, when you go off to college, it's not just going to class, it's starting your life. It's evolving into the adult that you're going to become. And even though he was later in life, he was still evolving. He was a young man. And he talked about the loneliness, and I could almost feel it. And he got emotional as he was talking about that loneliness. And he said, Trustee Huntley, I just need one thing. You name it. And he said, I want to find, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. I've looked in notes, and John may know it because I emailed him about it. But he said, I want to find, there was a white male student who talked to me. He talked to me. He had conversations with me, even when the other white students were sort of getting on to him and scolding him because he was interacting with me. And so why would I bring that up now? Because this celebration of integration is not just about Harold Franklin walking onto the campus of Auburn and becoming an Auburn student who happened to be Black. This is about the beginning. Integration is really about the beginning of us building a relationship and seeing people beyond the color of their skin and creating those types of relationships. That, to me, is the most, for him, the takeaway and the thing he wanted most. He said, I want to find my friend. He called that person his friend because to him, that person was his friend. And so a lot of times we check off first and this and that happened and we pat ourselves on the back and that's diversity or whatever. Well, have you ever been invited to a party but not asked to dance? There's a difference, right? And so for me, I have taken that with me in what he shared about what was important to him, his positive takeaway from Auburn out of all the negative things and negative experiences he had. And for me, it's my mission. I want students at Auburn to have a positive student experience in spite of whatever might not be right. But there's some takeaway. And Harold Franklin, of all people, of everything that he went through on this campus, still walked away with a positive experience. That was the integration. The stats and checking the box and we have a first and all of that, that's just being invited to the party. But that one person that he called his friend asked him to dance and engage with him and gave him somebody to talk to as a friend. And unfortunately, I failed in that quest that we went through to try to find that friend for him. And we believe, we think we understand that he may have been deceased at the time. You know, but for that to be what he asked for, of all the things that he asked for, I just want you to think about that as we reflect on what really happened that was a positive. And then, of course, there's the after fact, the opening of the doors for everybody else, what we learned from Tom and you know, and all the things that we're now memorializing on this campus, on thinking about all of these trailblazers like Dr. Matthews and naming the hall after her, and Dr. Bessie Mae Holloway, the first Black person on the board of trustees. We're so honored to have the families of all of these legacies here on our campus. You know, and I think about one example that is so true to what Dr. Franklin believed in and what was unique about that positive piece that he had in Auburn. You know, last year we unveiled the National Panhellenic Legacy Plaza here on campus, and if you haven't seen it, I strongly encourage you to go over and visit it. Well, what people don't know a lot about that story, there's a young African-American male here who led that effort, and he's a tremendous, tremendous individual and has a bright future. But he led that effort with a white male who was SGA president, and I don't mean to offend anybody in this room, but I'm just keeping it in perspective, who was a KA. Who was a KA and who wanted, with his friend, to find a way to say the NPHC is a part of Auburn, and we want people to know it. We want people to know it. We want people to see it. We want to let them know that we are proud of it. So through that initiative between those two friends that wanted that to happen, and with the support of Bobby Woodard through the, and Taffy and everybody that rallied around, that plaza exists now. And to me, that's a testament to sort of what Dr. Franklin thought was positive about his experience at Auburn. The real integration are relationships and people coming together. And so things have just continued in that way. You know, and please don't take this as self-serving, you know, but my daughter being elected SGA president a few years ago, the first Black female, we named the student center, the Harold Melton Student Center here a few years ago. All of those things to say what? To say these people that contributed so much to our community in true integration, because that all had to come from relationships, right? You don't get elected SGA president by Black folks in Auburn because it ain't enough of us, right? So, you know, you just can't do that. And so that's what I wanted to convey today in really taking a moment to reflect on his legacy. That one request was for his friend. So I want all of us to remember that although everybody didn't, one person did ask him to dance. And that was the moment that he cherished here at Auburn. And because of that, I believe in Auburn and I love it. I thank you all for being here today, and I now welcome Auburn Provost and Senior Vice President from Academic Affairs. If you don't know her, she's a rock star, Dr. Benny Nathan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Trustee Huntley and our speakers for your powerful, heartfelt, and poignant remarks. When Dr. Franklin enrolled at Auburn 60 years ago, the world was a complicated place. The state of Alabama was a complicated place. And in the last 60 years, we can all reflect on multiple things that have become better. But things are still complicated, maybe in different ways and maybe in similar ways. And as the person who leads the academic enterprise at Auburn, I stand in front of you resolute in our commitment as academics to recognize and respect our past, to embrace our future and, to embrace our present and to prepare for our future. It's not going to be easy, but I again want to confirm to you and assert to you that we will do the right thing. It'll be difficult. We will make mistakes. We will sometimes be sloppy about it, but we will constantly try to be better. And I thank Dr. Franklin and all our trailblazers for holding us to that higher truth. I feel I missed out on not having an opportunity in terms of meeting Dr. Franklin, but I know that he and all of you who are here will make sure that Auburn does the right thing, even though it may be difficult and even though we may make mistakes along the way. And with that, I thank you for being here, and I invite Trustee Riggins to come back to the podium.
Thank you all for being here, and let me thank the members of the Auburn Eagle Brass Quintet for performing as we were coming in. Let me invite you to come join us for a reception in the library right behind me, and then to our special guests, please stay behind for a photo op. We adjourn. What a great day for Auburn University and War Eagle.